from the lesson introduction on units and measurements, so section 2A and 2B, we talked or wrote down kind of what a unit conversion is, what a unit is, and places that they are useful or helpful. So let's just start looking at some problems. And so we've just completed, talking about geometry. So suppose you want to carpet your bedroom, and the room measures 11.75, again, one line is feet, by 17.25 feet. What is the final price paid? So we want to figure out how much carpet we're going to need. So before we even do that, let's draw a little picture just so we know we have a rectangular room. And we have 11.75 feet and 17.25 feet. And we know that the area is going to be the length times the width. So, and remember, multiplication does not matter which order we do it in. So I'm just going to take 11.75 times 17.25. And we end up with a little less than 203 feet. But again, we need to round appropriately. If we round down, then we're not going to have enough carpet. We need to make sure that we round up. So we need 203 square feet of carpet. But, so this is how much carpet we need to buy. What is the cost of the carpet if the carpet is selling by for $11.49 a square yard? And this time, now we're talking about square yards. We had square feet, so we're going to have to do some conversion. And again, we talked about using Google and geometry to do some of these things. So in this particular case, so we want to change 203 square feet, and we want to go to square yards. And I'm going to just say Google. So this is telling me what it is that we Googled. We went from square feet to square yards. You can also, if you have an Android phone, you can do this in your phone as well in the calculator function. We're just going to go to Google and we type in 203, 203, it was thinking for me. Square feet to square yards. And the nice thing about when we Googling here, it does tell you how you can do this. So it says divide the area value by 9. But it gives us the answer right away. The other thing that's nice is if you can use these little drop down and you can change your units, right? These are all square units. So I'm right now in square feet. And then I can change, if I want to change from square feet to, say, square kilometers, I just change the drop down menu to whatever I want it to be to give me that answer there. So we end up with 22.5556 square yards. So that means we actually need to buy 23 square yards. Go back. So we need, so 203 is actually going to be 23 square yards that we're actually going to need. So now what is it going to cost? So we want let's do the subtotal first. So the subtotal is before tax. And so we're going to take 23 times 1149 because we're now both in square yards. So that's going to end up with a total of, let's just go back, 23 times 1149. And we can just type that into Google as well. And $264.27. And now we want with tax. We can do this a couple different ways. We can do $264.27 times 0.086, so changing our percent to a decimal, and then add the $264.27 back into that. Or we could take $264.27 and multiply that by 1.086. Either way of doing this will give you the same answer for our total cost of our carpet. All right, so here's another opportunity. We have 0.6 miles by 0.9 miles of a rectangular farm. We want to know what the area is in square yards and in acres. Remember, acres is a square unit, even though it doesn't say square there. So again, we have our rectangle. Then we have our farm, and it's 0.9 miles and 0.6 miles. And so the area is going to be 0.6 times 0.9. And we end up, and again, remember that we have miles times miles. So this is why we're going to end up with square miles. So 6 times 9, so we have 0.54 miles times miles is square miles. And so our question is in square yards and in acres. So we're going to take 0.54 square miles, and we're going to Google that. Get it into, we say Google, and it's going to tell us that we're into yards, square yards. So we go back to our Google, and 0.54 square miles. This one is saying in acres. That's fine because that's going to be one of our answers. But again, with our drop-down menu, we can change this to square yards first. So we get this crazy answer of 1.673 E plus 8. So when we look at this, what we have to figure out what this E plus 8 thing represents, because that's not a answer we want to write down. So it says 1.673 E plus 8 is what Google gave us. So this is scientific notation that says times 10 to the 8th power. So we're going to count 8 decimal places after the 1. So we already have 3 here. So we're going to need 5 more decimal places, which means 5 more zeros there. So we have 1, and then now we start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how many square yards we're going to have. Because remember, a mile is much larger than a yard, so that means we have a whole lot more yards than we do miles. And I can put some commas in here if we want to try and read this number. So this is 167,300,000 square yards. And we're also going to Google that and find out how many acres. I'm going to Google again. And all we have to do is change our drop down from square yards to acres. And we have 34,560. Oops, I messed up. I put in point. This should be 0.54, not. Oh, that's going to make our answer so much nicer for our yards, square yards, because now we only have 6 decimal places, not 8 decimal places. So that's okay. We're going to get rid of 2 of these decimal places. So get rid of 2 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our answer is actually going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 square yards. So that's 1,673,000. And then we end up with 345. What happens when we lose that decimal place? 345.6 acres. For this question number 4, we know that we breathe once every 10 seconds. So one breath every 10 seconds. So now the idea is we want to figure out how much is going to happen in 3 weeks. So one of the things we want to figure out is what do we want to Google? We can Google quite a few different things here, but maybe we want to Google is how many seconds are in one day. And when we Google this, so we're going to just type in how many seconds are in one day. We could maybe do in 3 weeks as well. So we have 86,400 seconds. So we have 86,400 seconds in one day. And we did this by Google. Google gave us that. Okay, so now if we have one breath every 10 seconds, and we know that one day is 86,400 seconds is one day. And in this case, we knew that the seconds had to go on top because when we multiply these two things straight across, when we're multiplying fractions, top times top, bottom times bottom, our seconds divide out. And so we're left with how many breaths in one day. And now we know in 3 weeks, so there are 7 days in a week. So that means we have 21 days. And so we know that there are 21 days. Again, I want to put days on top because days is on the bottom. So 21 days is 3 weeks. So if we type this into our calculator, we have 1 times 86,400 times 21 divided by 10 times 1 times 3 should give us how many seconds or how many breaths we end up with in those 3 weeks. So just by multiplying these together, 1 times 86,400 times 21 is going to give us, I believe, so I believe that we get 1814400 breaths. Now keep in mind that we had breaths times day, but days is not there because that divided out, so we just have breaths on top. And then we have 10 times 1 times 3 weeks. We have 30 weeks. We want to know how many are in 3 weeks. So if I divide this by 10, top and bottom by 10, so that means I have 1814400 breaths in 3 weeks. It's 181,440 breaths every 3 weeks.